the fundamentals have gotten better. We found gold with delineated strike. We're going to go into another financing, another drill program. And that tends to bring excitement to a story. And then when you got the backdrop of a higher commodity environment, you have wind in your sails coming from a bunch of different avenues. And when those things all line up, that's when you can get the parabolic trajectory.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for July 15th through July 22nd, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature backdated 1-ounce gold Canadian maples at the lowest price in years, at just $65 over spot. Next, we have backdated gold 1/10-ounce Eagles at $39 over melt per coin. We also have 2024 1-ounce Silver Britannia at $3.29 over spot. And finally, we're offering Dealer's Choice Constitutional Silver half dollars at $2.50 over spot. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We are back live at the Rural Symposium of Natural Resource Investing here in Boca Raton, Florida. We're speaking again with Tony Reda, the president and CEO of Tectonic Metals. Tony, you spoke with us the first time 2 years ago at the same event. My son Elijah was the one who interviewed you that time. I get the opportunity this time. And there's been a lot going on for Tectonic during that time. There's been a lot going on in the world of metals and mining stocks. It's been a challenging time for investors in mining stocks. For the past couple of years have been pretty grinding for most who are waiting and expecting to see the improved prices of the metals reflected in the pricing of the stocks. And they're still, in most respects, still waiting for that. We're going to hear a little bit about the work that Tectonic has been doing in the meanwhile, the hard work to grind out the information, get the questions answered, and move the ball forward. It reminds me of many other industries where, whether it's in agriculture, whatever, that a lot of the hard work happens before the fruit is visible. And if you wait around until it's obvious to everyone that the fruit is visible, then you're fighting with them for the valuations that are now no longer bargains anymore. But we're both here, I believe, because Rick Rule is a common focal point who draws together. I was joking with you just a minute ago. He brings people's minds around mines because he looks for value where it's his scrutiny has identified it before the market has recognized it, and we get the benefit, our viewers, and we get the benefit of that insight while it's still a value and a contrarian value play. So I think that a lot of that still applies here. So people haven't missed the boat if they're interested in the value story that Tectonic has to offer. So I understand you've got some new news about metallurgical testing results and some things to share. But first, if you could just tell in a elevator speech to our viewers, because our subscribers have grown from roughly 50,000 2 years ago to 100,000 plus. In fact, we just got this plaque gifted to us by YouTube showing us that we've passed the 100,000 subscriber mark. That was last month. And so thank you for everyone for being there, because you're making this happen and making it possible for us to broaden the impact on more people so that they can all be prepared to survive and thrive. And we're talking about people wanting to own real things personally, like bullion, but also wanting to own shares in companies that are developing and working with real things like mines. So what do people need to know about Tectonic Metals to even consider if it's of interest to them to look further under the hood?
Yeah, so I think what I would say about Tectonic Metals is that we're focused on finding a mine, finding a mine, and with that in mind, that's our target with every project. So when we look at a project, we ask the question, can this become a mine? And if you ask that on day one, you have to ask the real hard question. So we don't focus on small, we focus on large scale gold opportunities. Because we're focused on finding a mine, we engage early with the local natives, the local communities. That's a very important piece of the puzzle. And to that point, we are actually backed by one of Alaska's largest native corporations. This is a for-profit native entity that has invested their capital into our company and saying, we trust you, go explore in our land. And to my knowledge, I think we're the only company that can actually tout that we have Indigenous or Native shareholders investing their capital. So that's first and foremost. We're also supported by very well-known, sophisticated investors and funds, Crescat Capital being one of them. We're obviously here at the Rick Rule Symposium. We've been vetted by Rick and been invited to this exclusive event. So we're very honored on that front. But we focus on exploration. Our team is not just geologists. We have engineers. We have environmental biologists on our team. We have legal, like lawyers on our team as well. That's I say on our team, on our board. So we've looked at every facet of exploration and mining from a business perspective. And we said, okay, now let's handpick individuals or professionals that meet that criteria on all fronts. So I think definitely we're punching above our weight class when it comes to the personnel on the team. And hence we have an asset now where the team has the wherewithal to take it through exploration, take it through development, they take it even into permitting and production. So there's a few of the differentiators about Tectonic.
For potential investors in Tectonic Metals, are they to expect that it would remain independent for the foreseeable future, or that it would become an attractive target for buyout or takeover by a major or mid-tier mining operating company?
So that's a great question. As a public company, any material transaction has to be put forward to the shareholders. The shareholders ultimately vote what happens. Now, if we execute on what we think we have, and our goal, remember, to find a mine and to find a tier one asset, if we execute on that, the chances of us making it to the finish line are pretty rare. Usually it's big fish eats little fish. They present an offer to us, and then we have to take it to the shareholders, and the shareholders vote. This has happened not just once, but our team probably close to 10 times now. So my biggest win, if you will, and biggest success so far, I'm 1 for 1. So it was with a company called Kaminak Gold Corporation. The CEO, myself, they're now with Tectonic. But we found a project, drilled it for the first time, found 5 million ounces, produced a very robust feasibility study. Rick was a shareholder in that. 3 other billionaires in the mining space were shareholders: Ross Beatty, Lucas Lundin, Thomas Kaplan with Electrum. We brought in all this capital, about 165 million, but we ended up selling this asset for 520 million. We had 3 major mining companies come after us because we had an asset that they need. And now, even more so than back in a few years back when this happened, we've seen the majors consolidate amongst themselves. So instead of going out to buy new discoveries or invest in exploration, they've elected to consolidate amongst themselves. So, for example, Newmont and Newcrest have amalgamated. They have now roughly 6.9 million ounces of annual gold production. If you find something that can materially impact those reserves, they need to replace those annually. They're going to come after you. So as much as I'd like to put something in production, if we execute, chances are we're going to get acquired.
Well, okay, so that's a journey that you're on, and you have the work that has to be done in order to document that, to demonstrate that that value, make that viable. You were talking to me briefly about your new metallurgical testing results and your 2024 drill program.
Yes.
What from those current activities tells your potential investors that you're on the right track? Yeah,
so the best way to assess that we're on the right track is actually look at the evidence. I say, don't tell me, show me. And so for geological evidence, I say big deposits leave big footprints. So historically, this property was the 3rd richest placer mining jurisdiction in all of Alaska. So we have 1.4 million ounces of recorded placer gold. For those that don't know, placer gold is like alluvial gold that's found in the streams or creeks, but it's shedding from these targets over millions of years. That's a good sign that you're in a very fertile area. Secondly, the first company that drilled the holes there was Fairbanks Gold, backed and founded by Robert Friedland, mining icon and legend, but also they advanced the Fort Knox mine into production. This is Kinross's Fort Knox mine in Alaska. They were trying to find another target. They only had a small postage-sized stamp portion of our property. Remember, this is on native-owned land. They've now consolidated it, but Robert and Fairbanks Gold put about 20 holes into it. Every hole hit gold. Fast forward, and 10 years later, another junior mining company steps up, puts another 30 holes. So we have 55 historical holes, and every hole has returned gold mineralization. This asset, we found it by talking with our native corporation. It sat dormant from 2003 up until 2021 when we acquired it for the first time. So I'm looking at this asset, the historical gold production, 55 drill holes, and every hole has hit gold. I'm like, okay, it tells us where we're dealing with a big system. And then last year we did our first ever drill program. We put 19 holes, and again, we've hit gold in every hole. So in total, we have 74 drill holes across 1.8 kilometers of strike. So the evidence there is 1.8 kilometers of strike. That is massive. And we've hit gold down to 400 meters in hole length and ending in gold. So those are the signs that are telling us that we have something of significance, something of scale. What we did last year, we did metallurgical testing. That's the ability, or trying to figure out, how do you get the gold out of the rock? This morning, I was speaking to a lay person about like, they didn't understand mining. I'm like, okay, you first have to find the gold. So that's step one. And I always say finding 1 million ounces of gold is great, but finding 1 million ounces of economic mineable gold is a whole different task. So task one, find the gold. Task two, figure out how big it is. Task three, figure out how to get it out of the ground. Then you have to figure out how to get the gold out of the rock. Then there's permitting and so on. So metallurgy is the task of figuring out how to get the gold out of the rock. And that has massive implications to the economics of a project. So we did first phase last year was do a whole series of metallurgical testing. Everything got the green light. We're talking 99, 97, 98% gold recovery. Those are phenomenal industry leading recovery rates. This year, we're now looking at it from a heap leach perspective, which is another extraction method that is very cost effective. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I want to show to a major mining company or to our shareholders that we don't just have one path on how to recover gold. We have a multitude. It gives you flexibility, gives you optionality on how to move forward. So that's kind of the second piece, or the second leg of the stool. We've shown that we have scale. Let's show that we potentially have something economic here.
And again, the reason we both are here is through Rick choosing you through his diligence, and Rick educating me and our channel through his visits with us, talking about how to do the kind of analyses that he does and kind of guiding us along the way. One of the things that he looks for is obviously teams of leadership that have proven success records. You mentioned Ross Beatty and others that he's worked with, Robert Friedland. These are among his living legends.
Yes.
And we've interviewed some of them on our channel as well.
Yes.
But you also mentioned another check mark of corroborating confidence, and that's institutional ownership. This is something that since we last talked to you 2 years ago has happened more for Tectonic Metals.
Yes.
Can you bring us up to date on that?
Yeah, I mean, Crescat's been the lead financier of Tectonic. When they initially were introduced to Tectonic was on another asset. They were a 10% holder. This asset that I was just speaking to, which is called the Flat Gold Project, that Friedland and others have worked back in the 80s and late 90s. When I presented this opportunity to Crescat, they went from a 10% owner to a 22% owner. And so we've been able to attract not only Crescat, but also the native corporations, cut a check to multiple times now, about 4 times. And we have other institutions and funds, RCF, Gold 2000, Mackenzie Investments. These are household respected resource funds that have stepped up and said, hey, we want to support you. So we're very fortunate to have credibility, because whether it's a Rick Rule or Crescat, you can obviously do your own due diligence, but having someone vet a company for you is, sometimes makes life a bit easier. If you trust a Rick Rule or if you trust a Crescat, they've done the heavy lifting for you.
Another thing that we've all been through for the last few years is a very grinding, pressured market on mining stocks. It's been a tough ride. And frankly, viewers of our channel who have been with us since 2013 have been owning bullion a lot of this time, and they've seen a long ride waiting for bullion prices to recover. Now that's happened. So gold has surpassed its previous all-time nominal highs in the last quarter. Silver is showing more strength than it's shown in a long time. These types of moves in the metals themselves don't always immediately translate into movement in the miners. So there's still, it's almost like you have a leading indicator of when last call, but get on the train before I leave the station for ownership and mining. And Rick says he loves to be hated, meaning he loves to buy things at a time when he knows there's value there, but the market hasn't recognized it yet. So as you and I were discussing earlier today, there's been the stock price of Tectonic has responded favorably to the injection of ownership by Crescat Capital and others. And yet it still hasn't run away yet, because this environment of tough time for mining stocks has still been prevailing. That seems like it may be coming to an end now. There seems to be signs of life in the mining indices, but they generally lag by quarters because of the price benefits aren't immediately realized in earnings and that sort of thing. For an exploration focused company, it may be even farther down the road, but there's a reason for expecting that a favorable market environment for the metals will become a favorable market environment for mining companies, because they'll start to get attention from the general investing public. Your thoughts on people who are prospective investors and have not yet dipped their toe in, where in their range of investments would Tectonic Metals fit in terms of potential for outsized gains, but there's some more road to be covered before we get there. Is that where Tectonic Metals stands?
Yeah, I would say our projects are situated at the discovery stage, and we've had success with the drill bit, so so that's phenomenal as far as I'm concerned. And there's also new targets that are going to be drill tested. So anytime you drill a new target, and when I say target, these are like kilometer long company making targets. Anytime you drill a new target, and obviously if you have good results, the market responds quite favorably. You were talking about value investing. I think that's what the sector continues to provide is value, and it's never a straight line to the top. And I mentioned the last company that we had that got sold for $520 million. It wasn't straight up. It actually went through the 2008 sub-market mortgage fiasco where stocks just got killed. 2013 when gold dropped to $400 and $400 in one day, and sector just got decimated. So it goes like this. But the trend is, if you want to endure the entire trend, awesome, but it's generally on an upward trajectory. But there's money to be made in all of those points. And, case in point, 2 years ago when we did our first Liberty Finance interview, we were a 6.5 cent stock. In less than 6 months, the stock went to 20 cents. What happened? Well, gold price got a little bit of an uptick. Crescat doubled their ownership in our company. We went into our first ever field program on this new asset, and the market got excited, and we closed our financing. So that is a remarkable return in a very crappy market. And now we're back at that point. And I actually quite like the survive and thrive. So what we're building a foundation to thrive. And if we didn't execute on what we said we do, I would be concerned. So I like the fact that obviously I don't like where the share price is at, but what I do like is that the fundamentals have gotten better. We found gold with delineated strike. We're going to go into another financing, another drill program, and that tends to bring excitement to a story. And then when you got the backdrop of a higher commodity environment, you have multiple sort of wind in your sails. Coming from a bunch of different avenues. And when those things all line up, that's when you can get the parabolic trajectory. But I'm a big fan of finding value, and it's easier to find value in a depressed market than in a bull market where everything looks great and awesome, but you're paying inflated prices. So what Rick has taught me is patience, and don't just, jump on the next shiny thing. Wait. And when everyone's sort of licking their wounds, guess who shows up with his checkbook? It's Rick. He has a knack of really moving in when things are dire, because there's a lot of value to be had. And I think him and also a few other people have taught me that you make money on the buy. You don't make money on the sell. Right. So hence, Rick loves his warrants. And, when there's times are tough, he has his checkbook out. And not only is he getting shares, he's getting warrants. And he's, I honestly think he's making money on the buy.
Yeah.
And, so that's important to appreciate. Like if you're comfortable when you buy that, hey, this is getting, you got to steal. I think he used the analogy of tuna or Mercedes-Benz once.
Yeah.
If you like the Mercedes-Benz or the can of tuna at $4, you're going to love it more at $2. Why aren't you stepping up and buying?
Right.
It takes a lot of courage and fortitude and capital to deploy when things are tough and to keep the faith. But when you look at a stock or a company, you're like, okay, Billy, they haven't done anything materially wrong or materially changed the fundamentals for the worse, then your thesis is still intact.
In fact, in this case, you've got more and more data that are corroborating your thesis.
Exactly.
And in a rising gold market environment, that should be multiplicative eventually when those rewards are recognized by the market. Well,
Exactly.
It's going to be fun to ride along and see what the next chapter of this story is like for the market in general, for the mining companies in general. But you're right. Just as the analogy about a rising tide lifting all boats, who's swimming without their trunks or whatever is when there's no water left. So it's been a clean out time for the last couple of years, and a lot of companies that didn't have results aren't here anymore. But those that do are back, and the best of those that do are at this show and in front of our audience. So thank you for joining us again for Tectonic Metals, and on behalf of all of our viewers here at Liberty and Finance.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always been a pleasure speaking with like-minded, respected individuals. Thank you.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for July 15th through July 22nd, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature backdated 1-ounce gold Canadian maples at the lowest price in years, at just $65 over spot. Next, we have backdated gold 1/10-ounce eagles at $39 over melt per coin. We also have 2024 1-ounce Silver Britannia at $3.29 over spot. And finally, we're offering Dealer's Choice Constitutional Silver half dollars at $2.50 over spot. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.